Hi everyone, welcome back to the Ranger Shop. So in this episode we're going to discuss lifting the back ends of our trucks. So how we can get it up a little bit higher. Looking up for about 2 to 3 inches, not a huge lift. So I've got 3 different options. I've got them all inside in the garage. I'll talk about a shackle lift, a leaf spring lift, and also a block lift. So we're going to discuss them, the pros and cons inside. So first off, the first step is we're just going to take a measurement of where our lip is right now. So let's get a measurement of where the lip is right now, and then we'll be able to use that as a judge for how well we did with our lift, what we can expect. So stay tuned, let's get the measurement, then we'll go inside and we'll discuss the different options we have. So right now, the way that it sits, we got 39 inches. So 39 inches to the wheel well, and let's see now what we can get once we lift it. Okay, so first let's start with a leaf spring lift. So it's an add-a-leaf often called. So what you can see, here's the new leaf pack that I've got that's going to be going in the truck, and you can see the add-a-leaf right here. So the spring goes almost to the eyelet on both sides, this new spring, and that provides support. So it's not really lifting your truck per se, it's not like bending the springs up, it's just not allowing them to sag as much when you put a little bit more weight. So that's going to help me while I'm towing my trailer. So right there, I've got an add-a-leaf. So that's the first step that I'm going to use. Now there's 2 other steps, 2 other ways that you can lift your truck. You don't have to do this with the add-a-leaf. If you don't do this, it benefits you a little bit because you don't have to pull this pin apart, you don't have to take apart your existing leaf spring pack, you don't have to put a new clamp on. I'll show you a few of the things that I did to put this together after. But these next 2 options, you don't need to do that. So the first one we'll talk about is a block. So here's the way that it looks. Your truck, this thing is usually sitting on your axle. We'll go out and look at my truck here in a bit. So here's your axle's down here. Then you've got this block, this is the add-a block, and then you got your leaf spring. So the problem with this setup is look at the torque that would cause. So as you're reversing, or let's say you get stuck, and so you're going forward and backward, what will happen is that's putting a tremendous load on your leaf spring pack that was just meant for a light little Ranger, and now you've got all this torque going back and forth. So this is highly not recommended, a block, especially stacking the blocks. Like this is the original block that comes with this, so that you can put this is where your rubber bumper for when you compress on the frame it hits. So if you were to stack these 2, it's no good. The only reason why I got this is because it was an Amazon clearance and I wanted the U-bolts. So I think the kit was like, I don't know, $40. It was way cheaper for me to buy this kit than it was to go and get the U-bolts made from a spring shop. And I'm just going to take this thing. What I might do is take out the original one and just use the add-a block. It's about the same thickness, maybe just a little bit more. Not too much. Haven't quite decided that yet. Once I get it apart, we'll be able to decide. Okay, so now the second way we'll talk about is a shackle lift. So this is a shackle kit here, right there, Beltec 6400s. And where this goes is at the rear of your leaf spring. So on the front of your leaf spring, it's attached to the frame, but on the rear, it's got a shackle. And so what this shackle does is it fits around this bushing like that, and it's got all these adjustment holes so you can go higher or lower depending on how high you want your truck. So this is a good way to do it because it's not adding extra torque to your leaf springs. It's just lifting or lowering the back leaf spring eyelet. But it'll only get you a little. So you're moving these spots here. It's only doing half the amount that you're coming down because it's only pivoting from here basically to there. So the way that we're going to do it, actually, you know what, first before I get into how I'm going to do it, let me show you on the truck where each one of these things are located. Okay, so here we've got my truck. Welcome to the East, or Ontario anyways, Canada. With all the salt we get, everything's rusted. So just, it is what it is. We have to deal with it. So this is the leaf spring. You can see, obviously. You can see the original block that's in there. See how the block hits the rubber bumper? That's why it's got that nose on it. So what you would do is you would take this block, add it to that one on top of it. It would give you your 3 inches lift, and then that's it. You've got your lift. Very easy to do. You can just cut these bolts out of here with a grinder. They all fall out. You jack up the truck, and then you slide your block in, put in the new bolts. You're done. Just like that. Super simple, but again, not recommended because of the torque that it'll put on your axle, on your leaf springs. So step number 2 is the add a leaf. You can see my leaf springs here, they're almost flat, and that's just stock, no weight in the truck at all. But see the distance between the original springs, where here's the main leaf and then the second leaf, there's quite a distance. So that add a leaf goes right in between these two and gives you some nice support right there, so that the springs are not sagging. So that's what I've got in there. I've got that leaf pack with the add a leaf in here, and also I've taken and I've put all new bumpers in here. So you can see there's supposed to be a pad that goes in here, anti-squeak pad for when you're going up and down. And you can replace these anti-squeak pads without taking your leaf packs apart. You can just drive a pry bar in here, and then you cut the little nipple part off of the pad, and you can slide it in, and it'll fit into this hole, and then it's in there. It's locked in there once you pull that pry bar out. But let's go to the second way that we're going to talk about lifting here, is our shackles. So at the back of the truck, let me just spin around here. So in the back of the truck, you can see this is the shackle right here. So this shackle that I bought is the one that's going to go in there, just like that. So that replaces that one. And so basically you're able to move it down where the eyelet is here. You can move it down a few notches so it's hanging down here. And that'll give you a little bit of lift there. So this is the way that I'm going to go. I've got those shackles to go in here. I'm going to drop it down a few notches just to give me a little bit of lift. I've got the add a leaf to go in here, and then I've got the U-bolts out of that block package to go in there. So that's what I'm going to do now. Is I'm going to jack this truck up and just let the axle hang, and then I'll put some little jack stands under here and some jack stands under the frame, so it's all well supported. And then as I cut these bolts, I'll cut these bolts out of here and then jack the frame up. We'll get some space in between here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to cut this leaf spring out of here. So the bolts that are on either end, you can usually undo them and then just slide them out. But since this is Canada and lots of salt, I'm just going to cut them out. It just makes it a lot quicker. So we're going to cut those bolts out, get these leaf packs out of here. Okay, ready to take the axle, drop the axle now. So what I did is I put some jack stands right under the frame there. The front wheels are blocked. And then I've got my jack under the axle here, and I'll put some jack stands under here once I get this detached. So the first step here is I'm going to leave the shocks on, drive shaft on. It's going to hold it from pivoting. Everything's basically going to stay on, but I'm going to cut these bolts off. So I'm just going to cut these off. And then what I'll do is I will take and cut the bolts off of here and back there. Get these leaf packs out of here. Okay, so we got our leaf springs out. We're just going to clean it up a little bit, grease it, and then put the leaf spring in. So let's go get the leaf springs. Let's prepare them. So I'm just rebuilding my leaf spring packs here. I just took them apart, painted them up. Now what I'm doing is I'm just replacing the pads. These are anti-squeak pads. Stops as the leaf spring is rubbing up and down as it's compressing from squeaking. You can see this one's cracked. These ones were this one was missing, and this one was just worn out. So I just bought this kit here. This is from it's a Dorman kit, and this is what Rock Auto said my truck was supposed to have for the Ranger, but I don't think it's right. The size is too big. Anyways, they're fitting all right, but they're very tight to get in. So I'll just show you what I do. So I just pop these things off, and you can do this in the truck too. If you take like a pry bar and you just pound it between your spring packs, pound that in the spring, between the spring pack, and then take a screwdriver and pop this out. You'll pop the old pad out of there, and then once you have the old pad out, what you can do is just take these new pads, and you can't fit the whole new one like this in there. You won't be able to pry it open far enough, but you can trim it down, cut it down so it's only like the thickness of the leaf spring, and then it'll slide in there okay. It'll go in, you'll be able to clamp it down. So you can do this in the truck too, but now that I've got the spring all apart, I'm going to do it right now. So oh, there you go. Nice new pad on there. So we got the main bolt that holds the whole pack together. We've got our bottom spring. You can see the curve kind of goes up. That's our first spring. Next one. So in between the springs there's this little piece of metal. Next one. Forgot my spacer. Spacer, spring, spacer, spring. So now I had to remove the clamp here that clamps these springs together. So I got this universal clamp. So what I'll do is I'll clamp that together, hold it down tight, then bend those tabs over, and that'll lock that spring pack all together. There you go. So that pack's done, nice and tight. I'll just touch up the paint a little bit. I'm going to tighten up my center bolt here and my pin. And then this is ready to go. I've got some polyurethane bushings to go in here. To get these bushings out, the original ones, they're a press fit in. It's very difficult. So the easiest way to do it is just to drop it off at a machine shop and they press it out. Unless you've got a press, I don't have the specialized equipment. So I just dropped them off at a machine shop, got them to press it out, and to, just press them out for me. So now, what we're putting in there, we're going to put in these polyurethane bushings. So it's a polyurethane bushing kit that I bought. So they fit in the eye of the spring like that. And to put these things in there, I put them in dry on this side, but inside here, I put a lot of grease because inside there, this sleeve is going through the center of there. So you're going to press one of these in from each side, then press this sleeve through, and then a lot of grease in here before you press that in there. And what happens is this gets pinched between the leaf spring bracket, like the hanger. And when it pinches this, it holds it solid. And so now your leaf spring is moving like that, up and down as you're driving along on this cylinder. So that's why you need the grease. Usually what I use in here is that white lithium grease. It's good because it doesn't degrade with water, good for heat, all sorts of things. But what I'm going to do, since I don't have any in stock, I'm just going to use a little bit of chassis grease in there. So that's the plan. What I'm going to do to press those in is I'm going to use, I've got a clamp here, and basically you just slide it and then crank it in. You could use a vice press, whatever you got on hand. The shackles already have the bushing pressed in, so I don't have to worry about those upper bushings, and then the bottom one is just where it goes onto the leaf spring. So let's get these things on there. So that's it. We've got the bushing in. You can see the sleeve. Inside the sleeve, put a ton of anti-seize in here, because what will happen if you ever want to pull these springs out, the bolt that goes through here will rust on that sleeve, and then it just spins, or you can't slide it out. So a lot of anti-seize in there. Slide those in, you'll be good to go. So let me get the other eyelets done, and then we'll set these springs in place. So here I got it loosely assembled, so I just slid in the bolts, fairly loose right now, but it's got the weight on the axle. These bolts are just loose too. What I'm going to do is I'm going to chop these off, and then we'll torque them, chop that leaf spring bolt off, and then you just tighten everything up. So that's it. Okay, so we wrapped up this project. We got our add-a-leafs in here, shackles in here, and we're just going to do a measurement now to see how much we lifted it. So it's at 42 inches and a quarter. So that's a pretty good lift that we did. One thing that's much better for me too is the springs are a little stiffer with that add-a-leaf, so that'll help while I'm carrying my trailer. So I hope you enjoyed the episode. Subscribe and give it a thumbs up, and we'll see you in the next one.